I've always been interested in stone because my family go back generations as stonemasons in Cork, and I suppose I've never really gotten the opportunity to go into it as much as I would like to, until I discovered that there was an organisation called the Dry Stone Wall Association of Ireland, and found that they had a few festivals going, and one of them was actually out here in Inishowen. I have to say, it was the reawakening in me of the, I suppose, the generations of people that were in the trade belonged to my own family, that I was able to use my hands again in a way that they were meant to be used. It just, it made me feel at one with the people that I met here, because everyone that I met here was of like mind. They all had one thing in common: they loved stone and they loved working with their hands.
Féile na is held out here in Inishowen, one of the Aran Islands, and we hold it on the third weekend of September every year.
Féile na is a dry stone walling event that we started 10 years ago, and it's where we build dry stone walls, and we use people that are stonemasons or people that are good at dry stone walling with people that have never put a stone on a stone before.
Well, the first year we held a symposium on stone walls, and we held that in Athenry in County Galway on the Teagasc lands there, and we were absolutely overwhelmed. 150 people came to that event, and one of those was Paddy Crowe, and Paddy is the manager of the co-op here, Corchuivan on Inisir.
Well, Inisir is, I suppose, the most easterly of the Aran Islands in Galway Bay, or in the outer Galway Bay. The nearest shoreline to Inisir would be Doolin, and the Clare coastline was the Cliffs of Moher and Doolin. And the population of Inisir would be about 270 approximately, and that's the permanent population. This is a Gaelic speaking area. Gaelic, or no, Irish is the first language on the island, and we've held on to that for generations, and we're still holding on to it. No matter how much tourism and that comes into the island, we're holding on, and we want to hold on to it because it's part of us. And we're very proud of it. I think people are very proud to have their own language. And it's such a beautiful language, you know, that it leaves English far behind as far as we're concerned. It's approximately, I suppose it'll be 6 square kilometres, as I said, with over 300 kilometres of stone wall. And the stone wall has happened over a long time. A long, long time. And the walls and the people will ask why so many and why this, because everything was done by hand. So you could only make so many fields at a time. But everything is divided and subdivided so that you have walls just for the field, but you have walls between neighbours, and you have boundary walls between sections of the island. The island is divided into 4 quarters, Keracaro. And it's an old way of farming on the island as well. It's where it's rotation farm. Cattle are never put in the winter. There's no need because we hardly ever get frost or snow. It's very rare to get to see those. Everybody's interested in it. Everybody that lives here was brought up, and they're all stonewallers, if you like. And it was a natural thing to happen, really. It was only just a matter of time until it did happen. And people were coming out, the likes of Pat McAfee and people like that, and coming out, they were saying, God, you know, this is an amazing place. And just out of that, I said, could we do something with this? Look, if it's so amazing and people are wanting to see it, could it be part of what goes on here?
And Paddy phoned me up and said, is there any chance that we could run that kind of a workshop out in Inishowen? So we came in 2006, and we've never left because it's been so successful. Really, it is the home of dry stone walling.
The first year was a symposium. We didn't actually build anything. What we did was all the history of where Inishowen came out of, and how everything happened through the ages, and how we ended up with all the stone walls that we have. And people were saying, God, you know, afterwards, I'd love to be able to build a stone wall. So we said, okay, next year we will build a stone wall. And out of that, it just took off completely, really, and didn't stop.
And in the past 3 years then we've added lettering and carving, because we found the people, as well as building dry stone walls, were interested in lettering and carving.
So the festival is all about stone, and they come to where is a world of stone in this year to have a great time and a very good week.
In nearly all cases, wall building was to enclose land. So it was a boundary for property, or it was a boundary to keep animals in, or sometimes to keep animals out. And so here on the Arden Islands we have also lots of walls that are there to protect land from the wind, which is another issue. And sometimes these walls that we can see light coming through, let the wind through, but in doing slow the speed of the wind. Ireland has 250,000 miles, or 400,000 kilometres of dry stone walls. We're probably, for our size, we're way ahead of Europe. And there are a couple of books were produced just in recent times that highlights that fact, the amount compared to so many other countries. We still have most of our dry stone walls. We've the biggest Stone Age settlement in Europe, possibly the world, at the Quay of Fields. 5,300 years plus, when Neolithic farmers came in, possibly from the north of Spain, and enclosed fields, much as we have today, for cattle. Over time, these fields became buried underneath bogs, and they were discovered in the 20th century and are now on display up there at a museum and a place you can walk around at the Quay of Fields. There are walls elsewhere, possibly up and around that period of time. But that wall building era then ceased, and other various dry stone structures were built. Although back in that period we had Newgrange, which is an enormous passage grave in County Meath, 200,000 tonnes of dry stone, a chamber inside that has let no rain in 5,000 years. But really the great wall building era came late 18th and really probably 19th century. When land at that time was being enclosed on a massive scale. There was a farming revolution taking place here in Ireland, in Britain and elsewhere in the world.
You'll have heard the saw doctors sing the N17 stone walls and the grass is green. Well, if you look at the county, quite an amount of the county, there's incredible stone walls, all different styles, and I suppose, you know, the whole craft of building these walls is very important. And, you know, what we want to do is to sustain the character of the county, but we also, very importantly, want to as well to make sure that skills aren't lost and the people have an understanding of the richness of the stone walls that add to the landscape and the character of the county. So from our perspective, that's really important. First of all, the landscape and its heritage value, but also the skills of a traditional craft.
The walls tell stories, you know, their function, what they're there for, and the style. Sometimes you only have to just see a wall and you can pinpoint it to a place in Ireland within a few miles. Well, here on this island, the island of Inisheer, there is probably just about every wall type you can find. There's everything from the single wall to the double wall, and to many walls that combine both the single and the double, called a fed-in wall. And the wall we've been building this weekend is a stitched fed-in wall. It has stitching in it, just like you'd get stitching in cloth. It's a way of stabilising wall faces. A single wall is like the wall here on my right-hand side. It's just a wall that's 1 stone in thickness. A double wall is a wall that has 2 faces, a stone on each side and small stones in the middle. And then the fed-in wall is a wall that's a double wall at the base and a single wall on top. But then we can go into retaining walls, and there are various types of retaining walls and so on. So it's kind of playing on a theme. And here on the Arden Islands, there's immense creativity in that respect. Lots of different styles and sub-styles of walls.
See, the reason I started building the walls with the stone standing up actually is to save the smaller stones that I would need for filling the crevices. You only use a special kind of stone and the clay shingle, and all the other small stones then you can use for levelling off the the wild area and getting it ready so that you're able to put sand there and make a field of it. That's the most reason I started out at the Rian, and the Rian is a special place for me. There's 8 fields in there now that they were all wild and nothing there but rocks and briars and stones. When I started working there, it was 30 years ago now. But now I have 8 lovely fields there. And I have walls there that's 7 feet tall. And it's good and sheltery for the cattle all the year round. And it's good. I love that area. I know how it was before I started work there. And now I know what I have accomplished, like. And it feels good inside.
Styles vary, sometimes according to geology. There's things you would, for instance, there's walls that are all boulder shapes in say, County Wicklow or in the Mourne Mountains that you wouldn't have here because they don't have boulders. So sometimes the style is dictated by the shape of the stone, also the abrasive qualities on the face of the stone. Some stones bite or lock together, some stones are slippy, like slates. And for instance, slates sometimes in County, say Wexford, are laid in a herringbone fashion, something like you'd see again in clothing material.
Well, the way I build it myself would be really mostly flat. The stones would be built in the flat. You know, I see in other parts of the country there'll be standing stones and so many different varieties. But that's why I build it from the flat. Usually use the bigger stones in the bottom, which would make sense, and level it on the top with pretty big stones as well, so that if you're doing walls around where animals are, they're not easily moved off the top of the wall.
This year's festival in 2015 will continue a wall that we started, a public wall beside the football pitch. It will continue to raise that wall, and it should be very interesting.
It's the second phase of a wall that is for the community. It's surrounding the pitch, and it's something that people will come and look and they'll see the style of wall and say, you know, we made this wall, we've given to the community of Inishere, and just to look at it, it's a work of beauty, it's a work of art.
For the last 2 days, people have been building a dry stone wall here as a group of people from Spain, Austria, from France, from America, and of course from Ireland, all working together and enjoying it and learning. It's been a pleasure.
That's a nice story.
building a variation of a Fedine wall. And a Fedine wall is something peculiar to the Aran Islands and to East County Galway. It's basically, technically, a double wall at the base and a single wall at the top. But this wall has a variation on that again, in that it's stitched on the face with what looks like letter T's, both standing up and upside down, and the letter L and so on. And it's to do with stabilising wall faces. Plus, you see a lot of standing stones in the background. They're called mother stones, which compartmentalises the wall. It's a wall built for the wind, to resist wind, and in this case to also act as a retaining wall and hold the earth or the sand that's at the back of the wall.
But this type of stone, Pádraig, you were saying to build a double face wall at the bottom and then use the bigger single stones on the top.
Yeah.
That's the best way to use all the stone that's available to you.
Yeah.
So we'll be introducing now a vertical stone shortly, Peter. Yeah. And that's up to you, but soon you will introduce one.
Yeah.
In the middle, or it can be, yeah. And it will probably be pretty much the width of the wall and tie the wall together.
This is no problem, no?
No, this is no problem. That will be buried. Yeah.
Okay.
So what we have here is what we're attempting to build. And it's a wall where we can see very big stones, which are called mother stones. And they're placed at varying distances along the wall. And what they do is create sections or compartments in which then a double wall is built. That's a wall with two distinct faces with smaller stones, traditionally called páistí, or the children. So the children are laid in between the mothers. Sometimes on the proper Fedine wall then there's big stones put on top that are called the fathers. But in this case we have what I'm calling a stitched Fedine wall, because in here are other means of stabilising the wall, and they're like the letter T in some cases, or the letter L, or sometimes like a T upside down or an L back to front. And they're in there, not that you would particularly spot them at first glance, but they're in there holding the wall together and creating stability so the wall lasts over a long period of time.
I can say every sort of person goes to the festival, mostly happy people, I think. I think anyone that gets their hands dirty or gets stuck into a stone wall and things like that, they're happy, they're enjoying themselves, they're into something. And we get people from all over the world, from the very far of Eastern Europe to the Americas, to Australia, Canada, all over Ireland, from north to south, from well down in County Cork to the top of Donegal.
I was just introduced to it by a man one time about 4 or 5 years ago, and came the first year and discovered what it was all about and really enjoyed it. And look forward to coming now every year, you know. It's just part of my yearly programme, I suppose you would call it.
They've come from varied backgrounds. We've had artists, we've architects, we've farmers, we've had builders, we've stonemasons. So we've had students, artists, just, ordinary people. And they all come together. We have had engineers, and what's great about it is that I suppose dry stone walling and dry stone wall building is a great leveller, because it's it's a manual type of work, and it's a work that everyone gets a chance to to do something and to partake, and there's a great sense of achievement that I made this wall.
And not only that, but it brings together people of many generations, of many nationalities, of genders, and nobody judges anyone when they're on a wall, walking with one another. They all see him as their friend who's going to help them to lift the next stone into place, or to pull the next stone out and drag it up the road for someone else to put it in. So it's a community of people, artisans, who love what they do and who love what they're involved in.
It's an incredible community. We do find a common element across the world, across the globe, that when you get people that love stone together, I don't know if because the work is so inherently hard and difficult, there's this common love that once one another knows the other does that, it's just this open love for each other. There's no competition. There's never a rally of experience or competition. It's always, how can I help you? I've done it this way. This might help you. How do you lift that? Let me, I'll get the other end of that board or that stone or something. So there's great camaraderie in that, universally. And here, definitely there is, for sure.
And I am very interested in this kind of works, this type of workshop to work with the stone. We have a big tradition, not in the north of Spain, but in the Mediterranean area. There's a big tradition of dry stone, like here. Little different, but something similar. And we in the north, we have different styles of masonry. And I'm very interested to learn about this kind of meetings and meeting new people here interested in the same kind of works, and of course to know this wonderful land that I've never been before.
It's men and women, young and old, and the women were definitely as good as the men in there in the middle of wanting to get that stone wall, and the enthusiasm that they show, they really get themselves involved in it very quickly.
Our own background, we come from the same association in front in Languedoc, where I do have a wine domain, and as well a lot of hills and stone walls. So I've been learning for 2 years now, and I love it. And I'll get more training here.
All my family have worked in stone in one way or another, so I just started working with them, and we go and restore. It's mostly restoration that we do in the area that we're in. And the lady that we all work under is 76. She's a brilliant French woman, so she's just taken on a whole community and made them all restore their stone walls and rebuild them. So it's marvellous, it's brilliant.
My name is Keith Robinson, and I'm here on the island to try and understand how the walls were built by the people who used to live here and still do and still build them. I have an interest in walls because I live in Wicklow, and the property I have has stone walls all around it, and in time they have fallen down, so I'm trying to rebuild them. So I'm hoping I will learn here how best to improve my own walls. But it's beautiful stone.
Yeah.
They were saying that the even texture of it makes it easier and better when you're working it.
Yeah, it has a bite in it too, like this. It locks together. It has an abrasive surface, so it's very good for building.
I met Pat years ago at a stone conference, and it's just my love for stone. I just still love. I mean, when I was serving my time, I always had a bit of stone on my lip, like the farmer with the wisp. So I still love stone, and I like watching men work on it, and just pure interest in stone.
What's really nice about it as well, and I suppose it's something that people don't see, is that it's a huge mixture of age groups. We have father, son, mother, daughter. We have aunts, uncles. It's, and all different age groups. We've had people from, we'll say, 18 up to 88 building walls. And then you have the people of the island coming together to display their skills and their knowledge, which is really nice.
The festival wouldn't happen without the islanders in it. They've been part of it and an interest naturally.
They love being here, and it's good for the islanders as well. We have a good time. Yeah.
First of all, they have the knowledge of stonewall building, and they pass on those skills. And there's a man here says you should never pick up a stone without knowing exactly where it goes.
They're really in to see, are we doing it right, and help us as well, and they get into it. And we've had younger people involved in carving and things like that. They just never had that opportunity. Whereas to build a stone wall to them is as natural as walking from here to the pier. They have nothing, we'll say, to learn, only to teach, we'll put it like that. So we try to involve them in the teaching, or else get into the letter carving and things like that, whereas they can do their own work, we'll say, for monuments and that on the island. And there's some of them very good and very interesting.
Yeah, that's good. That's the way you want it. Okay. I wouldn't take anything off it. No. It's fine and strong, and it's good for the wall.
Do you need a little penny under?
Yeah, you do. These aren't good. Take them down a minute on the inside.
Okay.
But also as well, they're explaining how the soil was made. They're explaining, they're growing of spuds here. So you're getting to know island life in a way that you mightn't ever get to know and appreciate it. So it's, this is a real sense of this is a real place, these are real people, and you're getting a real insight into what it's like to live on an island.
For anybody who's stone mad, like all of us are, I mean, the setting, just being surrounded by all these incredible walls, and just to think, each one of these walls is built by somebody, each stone was placed on a wall by a person, and it's pretty powerful alone. And then just being around the camaraderie and being around like-minded people. And Guinness is pretty good as well in Tigneds, so we keep coming back.
I like the Irish style of walls, the different types of walls, so that's the reason why I'm here.
Right. Pop that in here with this nice face on the outside. Right, nice face. This is a nice face. Okay, that's the one you see it. Right. Take that one out. No, we'll put that one in again. Just to level that up. That's good.
Nick Aitken from Scotland, who's a master dry stone waller within the Dry Stone Wall Association of the UK. And Nick is a regular visitor here as well.
Yeah, I'm a dry stone waller, or diker as we say in Scotland. I get to work throughout the Highlands and a lot of different types of rock, but one of my favourite is limestone. And it's nice flat, it's clean, it's dry. I've been at this for about 30-40 years, but professionally about 25. So I've got a lot of experience, but there's still a hell of a lot to learn. And this is one of the places where you can learn. What I'm going to do is hammer it, but to use the hammer is to destroy something, so you should be very careful. But sometimes you have to take a little nodule off just to get there. You notice the smell off that limestone? Smell it. Smell that. Oh yeah. That's ancient seas. It's one of these things where every stone that you place is an individual logistical problem, and it's a challenging thing. And at the end of the day, you've got something to show. Though back home we're normally a solitary trade, every so often you get opportunities to come and help teach and share stone situations with other enthusiasts. It's a solitary trade, but when we get together it's all good fun. But it's a very satisfying job. It's not the best paying job, but it's a very satisfying job. The proper placement of stone, the stone is placed length into the wall and tightly packed together. The joints underneath are covered, a series of joins, stones joining, coming up like this is called a running joint, and that's generally accepted as being less than perfect. Cover the joints, the length in, flat and level, except when you come to Arran when everything's on its edge. And the small spaces in between, you fill these up with small stones so that the large stones can't move. And however roughly you build it, that'll last a long time. You can really finesse it with shaping the stone and whatnot, but I think that the stone looks best when it's in its natural form with the least hammer work on it.
Tom Pollard is my name, originally from Dublin. I live in Tipperary nowadays, but I'd learned dry stone walling with Pat McAfee up in Drimna there through Foss. It's a good few years ago now, but easily 12 years ago now. And then coming here, I think every year since it's began, I think I missed one or two, which is a terrible thing to have to say you missed one, but it's great to come every year. And along with that now, you have Austrians, Scots, people from all over the country, from other countries. It's great to meet other people, and then there's talks every evening, there's talks now, like everyone's even just chatting as the day goes on. No one's cracking a whip, there's no pressure, but everyone's kind of focused on, if they're building, they want to see the wall finished to the end. They want to, and that always happens, and the weather seems to help as well. We get lucky with the weather, but it's a lovely kind of camaraderie. Everyone pulls together. Somebody comes off the boat or the plane on their own, you'll know they're on their own, so you'll make sure you say hello to them, or they're kind of brought into the fold immediately. There's no hierarchy, there's no we're the best and you're only learning, there's none of that. It's just people with the same kind of interest really. We want to feel the stone, we want to put it in and kind of perpetuate the culture of the stonework on the island here. But in general, like, it's not a dying trade. You know, there's an awful lot of people who are every day of the week getting up in the morning and going out to work with stone, but not necessarily dry stone. So it's great to have a large focus on it every year here, and it keeps you in touch with the basics of dry stone wall, and it keeps you in touch with people who might be having a tough time finding work, but there's always, you know, help going on. People are always talking, always sharing. Every year you come, you've got an extra 6 or 7 phone numbers in your phone when you're heading off home again, and it's a genuine feeling of, you know, we're all in this together, we're all happy to be here for the weekend, and it's just a very simple process. It's just a wall that's been built, but the energy that goes into it, the respect for the materials, the respect for the island, the respect from the islanders themselves even towards us as visitors, it's fantastic. It's just a very calm gathering of people, you know.
So it's great to get the island into it, and naturally there's good nights and things like that afterwards where we get the islanders in and they'll play their music and be part of the festival. And over the years they're meeting a lot of people that come back as well, so they become part of the island, these people. So we look at them nearly as, you know, we couldn't run a festival without these people, you know.
Let the waters grow and the grasses flow in a free and an easy way. We can't get enough of the railroad stuff to make in Galway Bay. Never mind your pills and the cure-all ills, are you a Christian, a pagan or a Jew? Take off your coat and you can breathe your toad in a bucket full of Mountain Dew.
Every afternoon we'll have talk by different people. One of the talks is about the use of dry stone wool for the granaries in northern Spain, and also we have a man coming from America to talk to us about moving large stone. Now this man moves stone that is difficult to find in Ireland, and it will be really truly, I'd say it'll be a very good talk. It'll be very interesting to see the columns of stone and how to move them.
So we'll start out with, these are my favorites. This is something that I was shown by an old Japanese rock setter. We were setting stone inside of a building for a big convention, and he had all of these little stones. We're craning them with our boom truck inside this building, and he's got these little rocks, and he just walks up to the thing and flips it around it and hooks it, and it just picked it up, and I went, holy cow, what is that? Because we all had round chokers from the logging industry. Round chokers roll right off of things. Well, these are flat, they're round wire rope, but they're braided, and so they become flat and they become very flexible. This thing is good for 2,400 pounds in a choke. So generally that's half of what it can pick in a basket. So this would pick up, rated to be 4,800 pounds in a basket. This choker doesn't stretch like a nylon strap. Once it takes the load, it's done, and it'll just lift. And if you're any good at it, it'll be nice and flat and level.
He really has it down to a T, and he can, by looking at the stone, nearly figure out where is the point of gravity and things like that. So some of the talks will be, and they are usually, we can't get people to go home from them. You think after a day's work on a wall that everyone wants to go home and they're hungry, but we find that people sit there silent listening to these talks every year, and there's no rush home. So we're in a hurry to get them out before the restaurants close and things in the evening, and it's super, that's what it is.
This year, I suppose for the third year running, we are very fortunate to have an absolutely world-renowned sculptor called Alexandra Moresco. And Alexandra's passing on her skills. Her workshops today were absolutely incredible, and she was showing a lot of the work she does in the States and commissions, and explaining the type of stone she uses and how she carved and the different types of relief and the different methods of carving, and also how she's collaborated with other sculptors in doing this incredible work.
I come from Seattle, in the United States, in the Northwest, so we're used to this amount of rain, but I've been carving for about 25 years and studied carving in college at the university. Started with a painting degree and then went on to sculpture. Went pretty much right into stone. I adore working with stone. Basically, I guess in some ways I was self-taught because our college didn't have the kind of workshop or tools or stone even. So I was a little bit self-taught when it came to carving and did a lot of sculpture in the university. After that, I just jumped into stone. That kind of is a part of why I appreciate these kinds of workshops so much, because there's not a lot of places that you can learn stone carving these days. It's really kind of truly a dying trade. In the States, the universities don't usually have a stone carving program at all, and if it is, it's very minimal. So I love doing it for that reason.
Alexandra, she has already been to Inisheer and done some marvellous work, which includes a monument to the fishermen that were drowned around the island. And it's a beautiful piece of sculpture.
In my different travels, I've just noticed that relief carving and sculpture are sort of a universal language. And so even if you don't understand the language or the background, you really have a sense of it transferred through art as a universal language. Sculpture, particularly stone sculpture, because it is from the earth, usually that's below your feet, I think really speaks to people when they're traveling or on an international level. The memorial, the Fisherman's Memorial that was done in 2013 is written in Irish, and I love going down to the water there and showing and just sitting down by the beach, because people walk along, tourists might come along, and maybe they don't understand Irish, maybe they don't read the Irish, but they look at it and they think, what could this mean? And so I think the art form can inspire people to do a bit of thinking of what this might mean. So I guess as a sculptor, you hope you're successful, that they gather the meaning and come away with it.
She has also done a sculpture this year in where we are in Champel-Cuivan for a soldier that was from the island that went missing in Lebanon and was never found. And we had a fantastic day, and she has a beautiful piece of work sitting in our Champel here now.
So the carving portion, there's carving, lettering, and walling, obviously. The carving portion is what I assist in the instruction, and it's a real lively team that we have here. People come ready kind of for anything. So I never know what I'm going to get. I have about 10 to 12 carvers usually, and you just don't know what people are going to come. You're kind of ready for anything. They might want to carve a local stone very rough. They might want to carve a relief or something very refined. All different levels of experience. People can come to this with never having touched a chisel, and some have had some years of experience. So you never know what you're going to get here. There's tiny pieces over here. This bigger block I'm going to split. Anyone that wants a little bit more mass to work with, let me know. And then one of the taller pieces is going to be for this image here, and we'll work on getting that set up and getting the transfer done. We've got the carbon paper and everything for that little group. So who needs, I think everyone needs stone at this point. Is that right? Yes. Okay, let's see what we got. And let's say, who here would be interested in working with the local limestone here, the hard local, beat your tools up, learn hard, learn local. Yeah. 1, 2.
I'd say I'd give it a crack as well.
3.
She was so encouraging of everybody. You know, she was saying to them, like, your work, you know, what you're doing here is absolutely, you know, very important. And people really feel privileged that here's somebody that is world renowned and given their time and given their skills and expertise. And I suppose even in her workshops then, that was her talk, but in her workshops, she seeks perfection and she wants to make sure that everybody, it's not about her, she really goes out of her way to make sure that every participant gets a sense of achievement, true sense of achievement, and a true sense of I can do it.
Can do it in layers.
Layers.
You know, so like, or you want to do your outside and take out everything up to your outside line first, and then work on your inside, or you can come in here and just dig these out.
Do the three levels that we spoke about. Would maybe work a section of it first instead of doing maybe the entire, or would that make
That'll confuse you.
Will it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just
Do one at a time.
Do one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, that was absolutely incredible to have somebody that instills that belief in people that you can do it, you can be as good as me. You know, it's all about practice, it's about exposure to learning about the different styles, about the different stones, and, you know, absolutely incredible.
This place is magic. I think anyone that comes here knows that immediately. I live on an island myself, Whidbey Island in the Puget Sound near Seattle, but it's a totally different experience. So from the first trip here, followed by doing the memorial, it's totally won me over. I've been somewhat invited into community. It's a complete honor to be someone from the outside being invited into the community to do a carving, especially reflecting something so deeply personal as the Fisherman's Memorial. Further still, there was a wonderful project that developed myself as well as Tom Little, our letter carving instructor, that we did jointly. I was invited to put a proposal in to do the Cuivan Shoga Memorial here, and that's there up in the cemetery now. So it was a great honor to do that piece, and I invited Tom on. We came out, we stayed for a month to finish that piece.
I think as I said, I'm 35 years letter carving and I'm still learning. So, but what I hope that you would take away from the 2 days is a kind of a desire to do more, and it'll give you the confidence to, you know, it's a good starting point. And what I hope to do with you over the next couple of days is to focus on maybe drawing letter forms, exploring letter forms, maybe working on an idea that you might have. And if you don't have an idea yourself, I can suggest something. But ideally, I would like you to actually carve a word. It doesn't matter what length the word is, but that it's feasible. But to carve something, and maybe to explore the different techniques of carving, like relief carving and incised lettering. So you'd have an idea of, you know, different forms. This is an alphabet box which I've carved out of Bangor slate, and it's kind of in memory of the person who taught me letter carving. His name was Michael Biggs, and the idea behind this piece was that a carved part of the alphabet on top here, and it starts off with B and comes around to M, and that's there his initials, MB, and then it's the letter A in the actual box itself, and the rest of the letters are carved around. I've actually got it upside down.
one thing, say coming to Inishir, Inishman or Inishmore, the first thing that hits you is the stone wall and the number of them and the scale of them and the different styles and the way they look and the way the sun dances and plays with them. And that is a man-made landscape. And in order for us to have an appreciation of how it's built, and also that people are able to, I suppose, have these skills and know how to do it, it's very important that people know how to build a dry stone wall, that they are, that they feel it's not beyond them, that it's not something that only a few people, the skills that only a few people have.
Here in Ireland we have the Dry Stone Wall Association of Ireland, and they're actively involved in trying to promote the dry stone wall culture of this country.
Then I'm involved with the Dry Stone Walling Association of Ireland, which I think again is very important. It's an old craft. It's very good for the environment, flora and fauna, and it's aesthetically lovely to look at. So I go to shows during the year, I go to Inishir and I go to Tyrconnell and Donegal. What I do is I teach the carving side of things there, as well as get some hands-on experience of dry stone walls, the different types, the different methods, and it's a very, very well-run organisation, and everybody is on a voluntary basis, so it's important to keep all these old trades alive.
It's hugely important, and to highlight the fact that we have these. They're a big part of our heritage, an enormous part, not seen often maybe not in the consciousness of even people that live in the areas where they are, but they are. You'll notice tourists here on the island, how they hum and awe at all the beautiful walls that are here. So they also reflect the landscape of man, the cultural landscape, the land created by people. On this island, the land was created, even the grass, the sand taken from the beach, the seaweed, the walls built to protect the land. It's so important. It's our cultural heritage. But it's at risk, and it's at risk from change, but also from things like ivy, which has become a major factor here on the three of the Arden Islands. And the ivy has become so invasive that it's now sometimes in a position, if you were to take away the ivy, the walls are destroyed in the doing of that.
The dry stone walling tradition on the island, even though it is alive and well, the world changes, things like that, so that younger people may not be into it as much as the generation before them. So it's vitally important. Like when you just see the island, it's just a monument to the generations before. That's what it is, and the land that was made and the walls built in all the different styles of wall. It's just has to keep going. We have to keep the island, keep the land, and it's important as well that people from outside come in and understand why it's there and all about it as well. And people are quite happy to come in and rebuild even after the storms. There was people actually came back that were stone wallers here for the festivals to give us a hand to put walls back up, which is really, you said that's, where would it happen, sort of thing. So that the whole stone walling tradition, even throughout Ireland, just if you take outside of the island alone, it's vitally important, really, as a tradition. It's a fantastic asset for any country to have dry stone walls about them rather than concrete.
I think things need to be maintained. I think ivy needs to be kept clear of most walls. I think walls need to be repaired when they're collapsed or semi-collapsed. I think people need to be trained to be able to do that. I think there's a great opportunity for work and employment in fairly remote areas in Ireland that would enhance the country, create more tourism, and be good for the people themselves.
We need to know the skills in repairing them and building them, because if they're eroded away for, say, if we start taking them away and we start building what we term stick and lick walls with, just, concrete construction of blocks, then suddenly you have a totally different landscape. But the dry stone wall is part of a natural landscape. It has a whole natural feel to it. And it's very important that we have an awareness, a knowledge and a pride in that element of the landscape that is our dry stone walls.
This isn't just once a year. We get together once a year, but there's so much community has been built between the participants that all year long, they Facebook, they write, they email, they get together at their own workshops. So it doesn't just stop when this is over, it doesn't stop. It kind of just begins. So that's exciting. Yeah.